What up? What up? What up? Welcome to the Mic Check Podcast. This is T Word People's Champ with this Monday edition of the show. Um, Thank you for joining. Thank you for tapping in. Hopefully, you had an enjoyable weekend. We had some boxing. We had some playoff football. Um, Pretty good thing on the slate today. Nice little agenda. Depending on the interaction, obviously, that's going to dictate just how long we go today. Hopefully, the mic is good. Please let me know if we're having any technical issues so I could get that resolved as soon as possible. So, I'm going to give a few people an opportunity to tap in and start to watch if they choose. So, bear with me. Let's see if I can throw a little music on or something like that. Um, Let me check the broadcast end of things. Make sure we're good. We should be streaming on all three platforms. Okay. Sounds like the mic has a little static. Yeah, I'm picking up way too much in the back. There we go. All right. I think that'll do it. Okay. All right. All right. Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate it. So the agenda probably is set for just a little short check-in. However, depending on the interaction, we'll go a little bit longer. I got a little time on my hands. So basically, we're going to be talking about. I really want to start off with women's boxing. I don't know how many people keep up with it, but I mean, I have some favorites. I think I have more specific favorites in women's boxing than I do on the men's side. Like, I'm a big Amanda Serrano fan. I like Katie Taylor. Man, she is a stoutly built young lady, but I like her come forward style. I like her active hands. Um, Franchon DeJean Cruz, um, obviously Clarissa Shields, but I think that goes without saying. How can you not like her? I think Savannah Marshall's an okay fighter. Um, when she fought Clarissa, you could kind of see some things that she probably needs to work on, mostly just because um, she was able to beat people with power, and once you can mitigate that power, it changes the fight. Alicia Baumgardner is good. I really like Michaela Mayer. I would love to see them do a rematch, but I understand there's so much more at stake. Let me put this up on the screen so if anybody wants to just comment, feel free to do so. Let me see. Okay. And we are streaming on three platforms. We're set up on YouTube, we're set up on Facebook, and this is also showing on Twitter. Unfortunately, no comments can come from Twitter, but that's okay. Jump over to Facebook. You can use your regular profile to comment, or you can jump on YouTube, obviously, and comment that way as well. But like I said, as far as women's boxing, I'm a I'm a big fan. One thing I think I like the most is activity. I like the fact that the ladies are going to mix it up, and a lot of them are fighting. Now, something that I noticed on the boxing voice, and I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and bash another content creator. It seems like Ness has just been in a really bad mood, and it's coming off when he's dealing with different people in interviews and stuff like that. Like, I agree with asking the tough questions because that's the only way you're going to get a good interview, but I think he seemed a little bit combative lately, and I don't know if he just kind of burnt out. I know what that feels like as a content creator, so maybe it's that. But he just seems a little testy lately. But he was talking to Franchon about Shadeja Green, who is her mandatory, and Franchon is trying to fight. It's not. It's Savannah something. I'm gonna have to look her name up again. But this is a heavyweight fighter who fought Clarissa Shields a few years ago, and they had a really good fight. You can find it on YouTube, in fact. And Franchon is going up to fight her. It's not for a title or anything. They're just gonna fight, and then she's going to try and rematch her at heavyweight. No, the lady's coming down to um to Franchon's class, and then they're gonna go up and she'll challenge her for her belt. So it's a money fight because they both have a name in women's boxing, and that kind of looks a lot like the current men's dynamics that are going on. People are choosing money fights over title fights, and I think that they just have to be careful opening that can of worms on the women's side because at the moment they really don't have that. You have either women fighting for belts or fighting for legacy, or sometimes it's both, and you have more undisputed women's champions as well for that reason, or more unified women's champions. You don't have four organizations, four separate champions, and they're all just fighting all these other people. They're actually fighting each other to put these belts together. So I kind of like that. Um, so it's an interesting thing that they have going on, and I understand that part of why women are fighting each other so much more is because there's less there's just less population in the sport, right? You have thousands of boxers in a weight class starting from the very bottom rungs all the way up to the top, whereas on the women's side you have hundreds. So there's less people to choose from, and if you want to stay active, which most of the women fighters do, um, they're going to get those fights. Brendan McDonald says the few times I watched Ness, he was really combative with callers that had different opinions as well. Yeah, I mean, so from the caller side, I get that when you get enough calls in, you're dealing with other people's emotions. So when people call in, they've been listening to you and they're bubbling and brewing, and they've got these feelings that they want to get out, and you've only got so much airtime you can give them. So you might get into what looks like an argument because you're trying to move forward, and maybe they're talking about something you're not interested in. When you're interviewing a professional fighter, while everybody isn't granted just automatic respect, I do believe that a certain level of respect should be granted and not argue with the fighters. So I have seen that. Hey, good morning, League of Legacies. How you doing this morning, my brother? Thank you for joining, sir. I appreciate you tapping in. Right now, we're just cooking on a little bit of women's boxing. There's been some fights announced coming up, and good morning, good morning. I guess we put the cart before the horse on this one, Brenda. But yeah, good morning to you too. Phenomenal. I love it. I love it. And I've been up since 5:15. For those who don't know, I'm a personal trainer, so I've been up early, helping people stay fit, get healthy, be in good shape. Um, so I'm already cooking, but it's always a good day when I'm able to get on here and talk sports. Obviously I'm a big boxing fan, but I kind of love all sports. But my hierarchy would be probably football, then boxing, track and field, then basketball. And that's where I could watch pretty much any football game. I don't care who's playing. I'll watch it. I even watch Canadian football. Um, Boxing, I can pretty much watch any fight. I don't care who it is. Now, my level of interest is going to go up and down based on who's competing, but I definitely watch boxing pretty much every weekend. The only time I miss is if I have family activities or prior engagements. Then I'll go do something else. And if I could catch a replay, I'm either on YouTube checking highlights or, I'm watching the replay on whichever stream they showed up on. And then track and field, I'll watch that anytime too, especially when they're getting ready for the Olympics and the World Championships. But back to women's boxing, um, my interest has risen in women's boxing when I realized how competitive it's been. Uh, Chicken Talk, what up though? Appreciate you tapping in, fam. Just discussing women's boxing right now. I know it's not the most popular topic, but they deserve their shine. Alicia Baumgardner and Amanda Serrano got a nice card coming up. What are your thoughts on women and men on the same fight card? Man, I think that that's amazing for the sport because it exposes it exposes the women to an audience that may just be unaware of how good women's boxing can be. You know, um, I think the level of skill that you see in a lot of the men is partly just because men have been doing it for longer, but there's a lot of women who have really closed the skill gap to some degree. And I mean, as long as you're competing against other women, you're going to find somebody that's pretty equal to your ability, right? So to me, that I think it's helping the sport grow. Um, for example, with Jake Paul, right? So I'll take the question there. I like to see the women on Jake Paul cards because he's bringing so many different eyes to his fights. And then you got Amanda Serrano in the co-main. It's really good. Um, it's a really good opportunity for the people who tune in, who always log into the pay per views like right before the main event. Um, it gives that opportunity for that side of the sport to grow 100%. Plus, it puts some pressure on the men. Uh, yeah, I mean, the women are going to put on a hell of a fight, right? So yeah, there is some pressure on the guys to step up to the plate. So I agree with that. Um, Women's boxing seems to have gotten better following the huge success of women in MMA. You know, I never thought about that, but that's actually a really logical perspective. Um, the women in MMA have been doing it for so long, and they've actually elevated stars that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the men in MMA. You have to think about Ronda Rousey. What's her name? The lady that was just on Cyborg, you know, and some others. Who's the lady that beat who ended Ronda's run? You know, she kind of rose to the top of the sport, and you can put her side by side with the men as well. So yeah, that's a really good point. I wish there was a way to kind of like highlight that, but I agree with you. I certainly do. Um, but yeah, if you put them on a card together, I think you have an opportunity. You have an opportunity for the casual fans to see that women's boxing is pretty good. When you look at technical boxers like Michaela Mayer, um, Alicia Baumgardner, they're very they're very specific in the way that they move. Sinisa Estrada, you know, you have some viable potential stars. And unlike the WNBA, where people can view it sometimes as a watered down product, I don't think you get that in women's boxing. Now, on the flip side, you have your Jessica McCaskill, who's exciting, but I don't know how much actual skill I attribute to her success in boxing. You know, it's kind of like she's she's kind of out there winging it, man. She give me she give me a little bit of Madonna vibes. So I guess is the best way I could put that. I don't know. I don't know at this point, and she's a little bit older fighter too. You've also got fighters like Ebony Bridges who are crossing it over. I think she's playing a dangerous game. She's got the whole OnlyFans thing going on, and she's playing it up in a, I guess, not family friendly way. But you know, it's selling. You know, like who's not going to tune into Ebony Bridges fight? Obviously, she's an attractive fighter, but and she also could put them hands on you because she get them knockouts. But you know, she's showing up to the weigh-in. You know, basically dressed like a stripper. So that gives you a little bit different perspective. I don't know that that really helps move women boxing forward right now, outside of just normalizing taboo type things. I think that's the only benefit there. But I don't know that it moves the sport forward in popularity as far as having people watch for the right reason. Now, watching her fight, she's going to get people to watch, and then she has to deliver in the ring. So I guess that's the best way to put it. But let me see. I want to pull up the Baumgardner card. Let me see who she's fighting. Because she was cleared to fight for undisputed. Is that the one that beat Amanda Nunes? That's who beat Ronda Rousey. Okay, Holly Holm. It had to be one of them too. I'm gonna look it up just to be certain. Um, we have a fight card, and I'm trying to pull up box rec so I can say specifically who Alicia Baumgardner's fighting. Ellen McCullough. This is going to be in Madison Square Garden, and that's going to be February 4th. And this is for everything. There's a vacant WBA belt, so it's for the IBF, IBO, WBA, WBC, and WBO. So it's for all the marbles. And I guess I'm not sure that Ring does a women's title, but I mean, if you've got all the belts in your weight class, how can you not be the ring champion, right? Like, is there any other way to slice it? Let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and get that information on Ronda Rousey too. All right, bear with me, bear with me. Let me see. Holly Holm was the one. Holly Holm. She broke the seal on the W column against Ronda Rousey. Yep. Good call, Brenda. I see you're on top of everything early this morning. I appreciate it. Um, but yeah, the women's division or the women's side of things, I'm a fan of good competitive fights. Let me see if they have the event stuff on here because I want to see who Amanda Serrano is fighting. Amanda Serrano is fighting the number three contender, Erica Cruz Hernandez, and this is also an undisputed fight. So you could potentially have two undisputed champions crowned in the same night. And it's for every single belt at the featherweight division. So I guess we could get potentially, we're going to get two ring, I would say two ring champions. You've also got Richardson Hitchens on that card. So that's going to be good. They're positioning that young man to make a nice little run too. So we'll see how his career goes. But in general, I think sometimes on those Saturday afternoons, because the zone has done a good job of putting the women's fights out there. On the Saturday afternoon, I think that's one of the most enjoyable things is watching the ladies get in there and mix it up. And you really don't have anything else distracting you from it. So that's also a good thing. They're not typically competing against cards on another network. But when you get into like the stuff that's on ESPN, it's kind of hard because sometimes there's also a fight that you want to see going on Showtime. So that's something to kind of get in the way of really giving the proper eyes. So if you can get people to watch it on the zone in the middle of the day, that's a pretty good thing. So we'll go ahead and venture since I brought the zone up. We'll go ahead and talk about that for a minute and their losses. So I did cover some of this on AM Sports Media on the Angry Man podcast yesterday, but I just want to go ahead and put a bow on my thoughts on a particular topic. And for me, I think that because the zone is supported by other means of revenue, I believe that they're going to have a much longer survival rate than some new companies that try to get into the game. What I think new entities should do is take a page from their playbook and start off with something that's a more viable sport. If you're a platform that's looking to get into any type of sports, I would say start off with soccer. Soccer is worldwide, so if you have the availability to stream all over the world or at least affiliations that give you worldwide access, I would say start with soccer because you're going to have a much bigger, you can cast a bigger net and you're going to make money off that. And you pick up like the minor league types, the smaller leagues, and you get contracts with them because those leagues also have fans. And then I understand that, players will move throughout those leagues as well. So you can also get that following that's built that other sports just don't have. And then maybe even get a contract to where you get some of the other lower level basketball games, the smaller leagues that are out there. But there's an interest in those things. And I think that's somewhere like that's what Triller should have done. I believe that. Nah, that's me. I'm moving away from the mic. I'm about to pump it back up. All right. But I believe that in order to grow, you need to have something that's completely viable on your network that's not as volatile as boxing. The following isn't as volatile. I think that's what you need. So you got to go get the minor league basketball, the minor league hockey, the minor league soccer, and then there's football leagues that keep popping up. And if you could put them on your platform, part of the issue is that these new leagues that are popping up are trying to fulfill these big network contracts. When if they would just get with an app, more people will watch. Because if you could subscribe for $5 and I could watch multiple football games every weekend for $5 instead of paying for the NFL Prime package, that would be something that I would be interested in because I love football. So to me, I think that before you get into true combat sports, you start with sports that just give you a bigger net to cast. So maybe that's something that BOK Prime is working on. And because they're an actual app and not just like a promoter, you could kind of be more flexible with what you do with your stars. You could promote them differently. So to me, I think that's a place to start. I think that's a really good place to start. Um, if I were Triller and I wanted to try and get back, try to fight thing one more time, I definitely would link up with a different organization. Obviously, with combat sports, it's become like segmented in a way that it's hard to enter if you can't play ball with all the parties. Yeah, I'm I'm meandering my way to that. I'm not trying to shoot my whole shot at one time. You know what I'm saying? Let me hit these free throws and then I'll back up and shoot some twos and then we'll throw the threes up. But yeah, I'm trying to fix BLK Prime right now. Let me cook. So I think that they're going to need something else if they want to keep doing it. They're going to need something else if they want to keep in the game. And now you've had, even though they said the Crawford fight was more successful than they anticipated, if we're being honest, it was mildly successful just given that they had only such a limited amount of promotion. So based on the amount of promotion that went into the project, it really was a success. They sold out the stadium for the most part, and then they said I think 120,000 pay-per-views. Let's see. All right. Legal Legacy says, I think their idea was centered around massive growth by bringing Bud on, but not much of a pre or post plan. That's interesting. And it doesn't seem, well, I think they expected Adrian Broner, whoever sold the idea of Adrian Broner to them, is probably what really pushed them to get into it. Because I have a feeling that they had Broner lined up before they got Crawford, and that was almost in the bag. But they needed something to bring him home. And once they got Crawford, he was like, okay, well, I'll go ahead and do my deal too. I kind of think that's what happened. But Bud was supposed to be the big launch. And I don't know, man. Um, it doesn't seem like when you look at you're gonna pay Adrian Broner 10 million for 3 fights, and he hadn't been in the ring. We're coming up on his 2 year anniversary since the last time he fought, right? So what do you do with that? How do you grow from that? And I believe that your point is correct. I don't think there was a big post plan. They had a plan going in. I just don't think they had anything before that. I mean, anything after that. Now I'm wondering what they're going to do with their rollouts next time because you can't keep rolling out. You can't keep rolling out fights like they did that one. It just ain't gonna work. Like just by comparison, right? I know the budgets are different, but let's look at we had two ads. We had the chess ad with Bud, and then I think the week of about 2 days out, they did another ad with Bud. The chess ad, it was pretty cool. Um, I would have liked to see a little bit more where they were promoting the card also, but it just didn't seem to work. All right, League of Legacy says I can guarantee they were nowhere near 100K pay-per-view buys. I highly doubt they even hit 50K. They're too quiet about the numbers, and if they did 50K as a company in their first attempt, moving up, they'd be screaming about the numbers from the hilltops. Um, yeah, I don't have reason to not believe it did 100 or 120 because look at all the different avenues that you were able to get it. Um, you had the ability to order it overseas. You had it um, sent out through cable and satellite, and then you could get it through their app. But then you could also just go directly to the website without the app and just watch it on the computer. So you think about all the hundreds of thousands of fight fans in the world that know who Terrence Crawford is, and it's $40, and I think a little bit less overseas. I could potentially see 120 being a legitimate number. I don't have any evidence to prove otherwise, but in my mind, I think it probably lay around 50 to 75, but I'm not gonna say they're lying at 120. That's kind of what I think on that particular on that particular thing. I don't know that they're lying, and it's kind of like we don't know. We never know the actual numbers. Showtime don't put actual numbers out. ESPN don't put actual numbers out. The Zone doesn't either. We just get these random estimates. All right, Broner and a kicking undercard should cover 3 or 4 million. Um, it depends because what would that attendance look like? So let's go ahead and talk about that. Okay, so it was supposed to be Adrian Broner against Ivan Redcatch coming up here soon, early February, if I'm not mistaken, and it's off because Redcatch has basically just retired. So I don't know. I don't know who you compare him against. That's going to draw the interest that's needed for people to even want to go and see it in person because where you're gonna have the fight. Now, if you're smart, you do like you did with Bud, and one place I think Broner is still the man is back home. You got to do it in Ohio, right? So if you do it in Ohio, you can get 15K in the building, but what are those tickets gonna be? So I don't know. I don't know where you place those tickets. I don't know if you can draw the kind of money needed to cover, because if you're thinking 3 million, okay, you have to pay the entire card, and you got to load it because you need to get the value for people. So the 3 million ain't gonna do it. Like if you're paying him 10 for the year and you do $3 million fights, you still ain't even covered Broner yet. So I don't know if that's the most feasible way for things to go. And then you've got to get the right opponent in there. I think that's the biggest thing. You've got to get the right opponent to draw the interest in something that people are going to find competitive and compelling, something interesting, something that you believe it could go either way. And I mean, at this point in his career, I kind of feel like anybody he fights, it could go either way because he ain't going to let his hands go. So I don't know that AB can hold a. Um, I don't know that AB can hold a pay per view card or whatever because it's got to be pay per view, right? So they can get their money back. That's the only way to work. Let me see something here. I'm gonna throw a little music in the background here. Tell me if this is good. But anyway, as far as how do you think do you do um, deal with the Crawford situation as well? So to me, that's where you've got to look. Who can you put alongside him that's going to be somewhat of a star? Like I just don't know how you could build that. So let's go ahead and talk about sorry, doorbell. Let's talk about I didn't really go deep into it. Um and I didn't talk about it yesterday on Angry Man show. Um Tim Bradley. I like Tim Bradley, man, but I feel like he toes the company line so strong. Brother McDonough too. I mean, but who really wants to see that? Like, I can't remember the last time I seen McDonough somewhere, so I don't even know what he looks like. Like, how close to shape is he? Like, do they need to just do it at like 154? Because I feel like they both could make that. But uh, Javante Davis seems to get a lot of just hateful things thrown at him, and he's been in some really sticky situations. He's been in some really sticky situations over his career. But when you're in media, I think there's a certain level of decorum that you have to have. And there's one thing to be candid, but when you're like just on these different platforms and you're granting these little sideline interviews and this and that, or you're saying this and that on air, I just don't like the look of that from Tim Bradley. Um, when you don't have anything nice to say, sometimes it's better not to say anything. Jay, what up though? Broner versus Frank Martin. Broner versus Danny Swift Garcia. Listen, Broner can't make the weight, man. So, what weight? Let's start there. What weight are we going to see Broner versus Frank Martin at? What weight can we do that? 142, something like that, like a catch weight. I think Frank could do 142. That's a little muscular dude, um, but he'll beat. I think he would beat AB up. He let his hands go. He's aggressive. He's active. He got a nice little beard on him. I think, and not on his face. I'm talking about he's strong. He got that chin. Um, and Broner versus Danny, that's actually more plausible than anything because Danny's already at 140. But with the way Danny let his hands go now, like he looked really good against Jose to me. And in a way, I feel like Jose can make a lot of people look good because he's kind of like the Roman Villa kid that fought Ellis the other day. He just walks around the ring and follows you around like a mummy, and he ain't gonna throw that many punches. He's just looking for a big shot. Yeah, 154. I agree with that. Um, let's see. So we said Broner versus Martin, Broner versus BSG. All right. I like Tim, but he's pretty much admitted that he's paycheck first, and I can't believe what he says. I mean, if he said that, you on the take, so we can only take about a fraction of what you say seriously. 154 for Danny. I actually like that, but you can't fight on BLK. Danny is PBC Showtime for sure. Bradley always has a dog in the fight, which isn't good for a commentator. Right. Well, you work for ESPN and the fights are on ESPN, so you got the home cooking off top, right? So when you factor that in, the hometown, the home team, I guess is the best way to say it. The home team is going to get that extra shine no matter what. So on the one hand, you have um, Bradley throwing the home team out there. Um, they're gonna say nice things every now and then. I think he and Andre Ward flip a coin, and they decide who's going to be the home team and who's going to be the away team. And the other would just say contrary things just to keep the broadcast interesting, especially when it's kind of a slow fight. I don't know if you all picked up on that, but I see that on Showtime. They tell the company line fully, so it's not just an ESPN thing. And the zone, in my opinion, is the very worst because if you listen to them and don't watch the fight, You would really think that the dude that they're talking about is winning, and he's getting his ass kicked. Um, they're probably the worst at it. I think Broner Martin is a good fight to sell subscriptions with the buzz on Martin and the mouth on Broner. See, my issue with both these fights is that these are Showtime PBC guys. So they're, Al Heyman's not going to let them go fight on BLK. So unless Broner comes back to where he started, but well, not where he started, but just comes back, which I don't see happening, we can't really make those fight. We got to think the zone people, because they've shown a willingness to move around and go get the money. You've got to think free agent stuff like that. Um, Bradley always has a dog in the fight. Okay, we did that one. All right, let's see. Tim says Spencer's running, but was quiet about Bud shenanigans. I mean, so what do you all think about this? I've said this for quite some time since Bud left. The court case kind of settled itself or whatever. So, with the air being clear, is there potentially an opportunity? I mean, even though Bud says he's his own boss and he's getting acclimated, I think he's finding some hardships out there, and it's just easier for him. It's just easier for him to maybe get with the promoter that can just go in the room for him and even put some money behind him to get him in some of these bigger fights that's going to line his pockets before he retires, whether he wants more belts or not. I need to see what Cambosis is under. Can anybody pull that for me? Broner Rolly will be pay per view gold. Man, I'm telling you, I would watch every piece of content surrounding that fight. Let me close this point. I'm gonna get to that because I want to talk about that idea. Okay, so um, I think that the ESPN and top ranked people are not going to say bad things about Terrence Crawford because if there's any potential that that door's still open to get back together, they don't want to ruin it by putting out bad tape. And we know at this point, Bud is watching everything. Don't think he's missing when people are talking about him and saying negative things. So, in my opinion, he's uh he's there. He's there in a position to go back if there's no hard feelings, and I just don't see the hard feelings because I don't see either side saying anything. League of Legacy says that's a great point. All right. Brenda McDonald says promoters controlling everything is a problem. Brenda, I tend to agree with that. I think that promoters who want to be stars are a problem. I'm talking about Oscar and I'm talking about Eddie. You never hear from Bob Arum if they don't beg him to answer questions, and it's only on his premier fights that he'll go to the press conference and talk. So I don't look at Bob Arum that way. He's not trying to be a star. He's renowned. Um, Al Heyman, nobody ever gets to talk to him, right? So there's that. But I think that it's more of a network situation. That's the problem. It's too many different places to put the fights. If you had like 20 promoters but only two networks, you're either going to A or B. So those fighters are going to end up fighting. It's the money that these people are having to put out, and that's why you're also getting so much pay per view stuff instead of regular TV stuff. Um, let's see, Brona Cambosis. Let's find out where Cambosis is. Let's find out who he runs with. All right, let me see. Broner versus Rolly will be pay per view gold. Now, if we want to talk about somebody that could potentially get sacrificed in order to make something happen, um, so you got Mayweather Promotions with Rolly, right? And then you got Broner in this new network. You have so many storylines you can make because Broner used to be Floyd's guy. Rolly is kind of the last marquee guy he's got left. So you have a storyline to play right there. And now you've got a reason for Mayweather to start talking about this fight. So you've got one of the biggest promotional options on the table right there. League of Legacy says, you took the words out of my mouth as I was typing them to you. Promoters should think from a partner's perspective. True. All right. Multi promotion should be common. And see, so Brenda, I like what you're saying right there, but here's the thing. The promoters, you have multi promotion every time. There's always at least two promoters for the most part, unless the fighter is a true free agent. Um, the issue is you have these network exclusivity deals with the promoters. That's your issue. So you've got TGB, who are exclusive to Showtime, Fox, and then you've got Top Rank, who's exclusive to ESPN. So the issue is the networks. Who gets to air the fight? Who gets the rights? Who gets the rights to the content after it airs for all these replays that's going to be on YouTube? Who gets to post the highlights? Who gets the press conference? Different stuff like that. That's where your issues come into play. Let's see. Cameras with Lou DiBella. Okay. So what weight do you want that at, Jay? Look at Brenda. Rockstar. Okay. League of Legacies agrees. Jay agrees. League of Legacy says, I just don't know if Mayweather believes in Broner following through. So nobody seems to have faith in Adrian Broner. And because Floyd basically has seen him kind of run out the back door on PBC, I believe that's a very good point. I don't know that. I think Floyd would just put Rolly in it because he needs a winnable fight. I feel like Rolly could potentially knock AB out, so he needs a winnable fight. But then he also needs it's a seller. Everybody can make money. Yeah, I would let Rolly go fight on BLK. I ain't gonna lie, he could go do it. Rolly could go right up there and he could fight on BLK and bring back a bag to his folks. You know, yeah, yeah. How you feel about the Wilder Ngannou rumors? Um, I mean, I'm okay with the activity of it, um, because right now the belts in the heavyweight division are all tied up. So these guys need to be doing different things. Um, at least just staying active, doing something. That's kind of my biggest thing. Um, I don't like when guys sit around, not doing anything. That's something that we've discussed at length. Me and Q, just guys being active, and all the time it ain't going to be stuff that you necessarily want to see. But what's the difference between that and seeing like your dude just showing up at fights, sitting in the crowd? Like that's kind of my thing. Like just do something, be busy, and I mean it's something that's entertaining. Oh yeah, for sure. And that's what I was gonna say. It's something that's gonna be entertaining, but more than anything, you get to put something in your pocket and you get to build some hype, right? Wilder Ruiz. So for progressing the division, yes, that's what you really want to see. If I had to give a take on that fight, I would say I think I think Ruiz has enough to make it interesting for a few rounds. I just think that if you get knocked down, like Ortiz is giving you hell, stuff like that. I just think Wilder sleeps him at some point. He gonna catch him with something sharp, and it's a wrap. What do you guys think, Wilder or Ortiz? If you had to pick somebody right now, who wins and how? Because unlike some, I don't think that Wilder is shot because he got beat up, two times by Tyson Fury. I don't think he's a shot fighter. I just think he met the biggest, baddest dog on the block, and he just wasn't bad enough to beat him. That's a lot of bees right there. I ain't mean to do that. But yeah, I think that's a fight that I just don't think it would be interesting outside of boxing fans. Well, Wilder draws casual fans. I know people that will, tune and watch Wilder. I know when he had his last fight, there was people that paid for it that probably didn't realize how bad of a fight it was. They didn't know, it wasn't going to be that good. You got Ruiz, Brenda. Okay. What's he going to do to offset Wilder's power and potentially a little bit? I don't know if I could call him a better boxer, a slightly more skillful Wilder than before with that power. What does Ruiz do to offset that? I think is the question I would be interested in. And is the link still pinned? Sorry about that. I got to mute a tab here or something. So if anybody wants to tap in, join the convo for a little bit, link is pinned in the chat. It's open panel, so you ain't got to turn your camera on. You can sit back, relax, drink your coffee, and talk a little bit more boxing here. Um, I'll probably stick out another. If nobody's tapping in, I'll probably do another 15 minutes, and then we're gonna wrap it up. I need to make sure there was something else on here I wanted to talk about. Oh, so who checked out the fights over the weekend? Ajagba. Avoid the right is all anyone needs to beat Wilder. It's all he's got. Yeah. So just stay out the way of that right hand, and you can make it. You can live to see another day. That's what you're saying. Ruiz is a great fight too, from Jay. Um, avoid the right. That sounds easier said than done though. Like how can you? How do you exactly avoid the right hand? Um, how does that? How does that actually happen? Because at some point, if he's jabbing just a little bit, he can jab you into that punch if he uses it as like a guide because he has such a long reach. I think it's hard to just get away from that right hand. That's just my opinion. Obviously, I'm open to discuss it. And while it may be all anybody needs to beat Wilder, only one man has actually proven that works, and he didn't avoid the right. He just got a beard from hell and was able to get up from some knockout blows and put Wilder on his ass. So until somebody else can actually show me they can execute that game plan, it's kind of like somebody saying, "Hey, this was successful against Crawford," until somebody beats him with something. He has he has a pawing like more of a measuring stick. So I guess I agree with you. It's not a true jab, but we didn't get to see anything against Hellenius, so we don't know what he's been working on. If Malik Scott can do anything, that's the one thing. Give him something to set up the other punch. And we saw the movement. We saw him at least attempting to try and box. So if you add those elements, all you need is one good trap to get off that right hand. And it's so deadly. I mean, how many people have really gotten up and survived? And do we think that if Ruiz is put down once, is he going to be any good for the rest of the fight? Getting his chest? Okay. So, from a defensive standpoint, I think is it worth the damage you'll take in Ruiz's case to get beat up, basically, to get inside and try to like shorten up Wilder's shots? And I mean, even if you get inside, he hit Hellenius with a short shot, and it kind of KO'd him. Now, whether you think Hellenius was just there for a quick little check or not, I'm not here to debate that with anybody. But I don't know that Ruiz is going to be able to withstand even that same sharp shot. I just don't see it. All right, so more boxing here. I'm gonna talk about my thoughts on how the division, how welterweight is going to play out over the next, let's say, 12 months. So this time next year, this is where I think we'll be. Errol Spence Jr. and Terrence Crawford, I think both will be out of the welterweight division this time next year. I believe they will fight at the end of this year. I'm one of the few people that's still holding on hope. I know this is almost a taboo topic for some at this point because we've been talking about it for years, right? Let's see. Pay-per-view cards need to include a good UK, USA mixed fight. Get three countries buying. I mean, I think that's a good formula, but the fact that things are so liquidated in terms of all these different networks, it's hard for you to put those kind of cards together. You either have a heavy USA African American card, or you got a heavy Hispanic card, or you've got the zone with heavy UK cards. it's really hard to get all those things together, right? So that kind of makes that almost an impossibility on most days, unless again, like you said, cross promotion or cross networking where they come together and make a deal. But so I can summarize these thoughts on Spence Crawford. This is what I'm trying to say. So I think the sanctioning bodies have found a way to move things forward, and just follow my logic if you don't mind. Humor me for a moment. So the WBC use their power, and they just have some type of control over the other organizations. They use their power to, number one, elevate Keith Thurman into a spot that by rule on paper he was allowed to get back into, even though it had been several years. I think they gave him credit because of the COVID and sitting out, right? Okay, so they elevate him. He's a marquee name. He's somebody that could draw attention to their belt, make more money on the fight. Okay, they put him in the number one spot and then order the mandatory. The WBA has allowed Stanionis to step aside once. They've scrapped their tournament that they were doing, and they're saying, okay, we're not going to do all that. Here's what we want from you. We're going to put these two young fighters in together and buy you a little bit of time, but we need you to go ahead and finish unifying this division, or we'd like our belt back. Now, the IBF got into the mix, and basically, I feel like they said something similar. This is all speculation on my part. They said, hey, well, we got a belt too. What can we do? How can we get in the mix? We're going to give you X amount of days to go ahead and get a fight with Terrence Crawford, or we're going to need you to give us our belt back as well. So you two guys need to go ahead and fight, or we want our belts. The only one that doesn't seem to be in the mix is the WBO, and I believe their convention is in the spring, and the other three are in like the fall, winter. So they're the only ones that don't seem to be online with the process, and I'm not sure why. But I guess it won't really matter if the other three belts are being put up, because now, let's say Spence has to vacate for some reason, like he just can't get it done with Terrence Crawford. He's at 154. He's already had a fight up there. Basically, that legacy is sealed. It's over. Welterweight is a thing of the past for him. What reason would Terrence Crawford have to stay at welterweight? Because if he's to go and get those other three belts, and it's not from Errol Spence, while it looks good on paper that he became undisputed in two weight classes, it's not going to have the same oomph on his resume as um, if it was from Spence. So he would just move on. He would just say, oh, hell with it. I'm going to drop this belt. I'm on my way. I'm going to go to a different division. Um, does that seem plausible to you all? Does that make sense to anybody else besides me? Because that's what I think. That's what I think is the lineup. The only other outcome is Errol Spence is able to get past Keith Thurman, and then he's got to get into the fight with Terrence Crawford. They both feel pressure to make it happen because of the timeline. And then whoever wins, I think they're both moving on anyway. Because I feel like if Terrence Crawford wins, unless there's a very strict rematch clause, he's not going to fight Errol again. Why would you do it? You already got the belt. You're two-time undisputed. You can go on to 154. Hell, man, forget that. You done made enough money. Go retire. Don't even worry about boxing no more. You're definitely going to the Hall of Fame with that on your resume because you'll be the only, right? So either he's just strictly out of welterweight and in 154, maybe pursuing Jamel, or he just retires. Errol Spence, in that same scenario, let's say he loses to Crawford, he's going to go up to 154. Why would you stick around at welterweight after that? So in my opinion, that's how I kind of see things playing out. Would love to find out what you all think on that particular thing. Um, that's just my opinion why they both are out. Brenda says, let's get it. What we getting? Like, I mean, how else how else would you how else would you position the rest of the welterweight division, especially in regards to just those two fighters specifically? There's no reason for them to be at 147 this time next year. I don't see any valid reason for them to truly be in a competitive sense at 147 this time next year. Because even if they could go ahead and get a fight, let's say by the time Errol fights Keith, which should be around April, he should already have a fight on the books scheduled with Terrence Crawford, which is a contingency. As long as I win, because there's something funky going on with that belt. So I don't know how that looks. As long as I'm able to get past Keith, we have a tentative agreement in black and white to fight. Let's say that's April. So let's say August. There's nothing to say that they can't get right back in the ring in November or December in a rematch, and that's going to settle things by then anyway. The only other way it doesn't is if it's split. They go 1-1. That's the only other way it doesn't work. But I still don't see a reason for them to stick around at 147 after that. That's just my opinion. So yeah, that's what I think. Um, I think they both just need to go ahead and move on, no matter exactly what happens outside of just a split. That's the only way. Well, if they don't fight, it's a stain on boxing for sure because you had an opportunity for a legacy fight and they just couldn't get it done. At this point, you could say that the early issue with this fight was PBC and Errol Spence trying to hype up the fight and marinate it, right? That's the early issue. But then I think at this point, when it came time to actually start making it, the issue became Chance Crawford just not having the acumen to get it done. I think if he had gone in there with the right representation, I believe we could have had this fight. I just think that because he didn't have the right representation, the negotiation process took longer than it needed to. Now that's not saying that this man doesn't understand business. I think that the level of business that was taking place was just outside of his pay grade. He's a professional fighter, not a professional negotiator. If he's never been at the table, he doesn't know how certain things at the table go. Asking questions on certain details that are kind of inconsequential in the moment. I think those type of things just slow down the process, and I believe that's what happened with them. So, what's the benefit in negotiating in public? What do you gain from a public negotiation? Because I mean, are you going to have people like the public vote on terms? Like that's kind of my question right there. Like, how do you negotiate in public? What do you do? You just have it to where your lawyers or the attorneys and the promoters are sitting at a table and the camera's running and they do a live stream on YouTube. Is that what we mean by public? Because I don't understand what's going to get done. Well, I mean, but how do we as non promoters and strictly boxing fans, how do we know what's full of shit, right? Like, how do we know? Like, how can we say like, oh, that's BS that he's asking for that? Like, how can we tell a fighter what they should or shouldn't be asking for at the table? Like, to me, that's what I would want to be, questioning. Like, well, is that really not a good thing to ask for, or is that a good thing to ask for? Those are the type of things I would be. I think most people would be wondering. Like, they don't know what's in the contract. They don't know if that fighter's asking for something extra, or they don't know if that's standard. All right. Why couldn't? Okay, so Jay says why they couldn't do what Tank and Ryan did. Tank took the fight, and Ryan, like Errol, could have spin a block earlier. um, I mean, that's what I'm saying. They could have done like a two fight setup, and they both could have said, back in let's say August, Bud could have said, "Hey, I got this deal. Let me go over here and get this bag real quick. Um, I'm gonna go get this bag over here real quick. Errol, if you can get a fight, go ahead, and then we'll fight in January." So they both could have did another fight. Errol could have took care of Keith before he got mandated, and Bud could have fought David Evanesian, and then they could have met in the ring in January. We could have been talking about the fight that just happened instead of the fight that needs to happen. Let me see. Any negotiating in public is a recipe for disaster. You want as few people as possible involved in negotiations. I agree. And I mean, just televising it doesn't do anything outside of maybe getting somebody that would normally be a church mouse to get on there and cap a little bit because it's on air. Try to flex a little bit. All right, let's see. Brenda says, at least have an opinion based on facts, not he or they said. Well, that's not going to stop people from doing he said, she said, because you still have interpretation to play in. So you and I can watch the exact same thing and we'll see two different things, even though it's the exact same thing, right? So you and I could watch the negotiations, and let's, for example, say Errol Spence says, here's the first offer. Since I have the most belts, I'm going to lay out the first offer. I would like to come out secondly. I would like to come out second. I would like us to fight in 8-ounce gloves, and I would like to fight in Texas. Those are not unreasonable things. And then Terrence Crawford comes back and he says, no, I want to come out second. And then they just go back and forth. He basically just flips everything. I want 10-ounce gloves and I want to fight in Jamaica. Then you got this back and forth. You know what I'm saying? You're going to say, well, why shouldn't they go fight in Jamaica? That's going to be your opinion. My opinion going to be, why wouldn't they fight in Texas? We're both going to have our reasons why we think those requests are reasonable, but then we're still going to just be going back and forth. But there's nothing factual to say one is a better idea than the other. So, like League is saying, it's not going to take the he said, she said out. And then the people who don't watch the negotiations are going to say something crazy like, well, I heard they said, even though they didn't watch the actual video. So I know I didn't give like a specific fit, but it's kind of the general idea. We could see the same thing, but we're going to interpret it different based on where our loyalty lies. We both have a preference between the two fighters. So we're probably going to lean to that fighter getting preferential treatment by the people that are putting up the money. In this particular case, if Crawford comes to the table with a promoter, it's different. Post term sheet and we would know. Okay, but it's still no different. But that's what I'm saying. We can both read that term sheet and it's going to be the exact same thing. You're going to read the terms and say you think what the fighter you prefer is asking for something that's fair. And I'm going to read the term sheet and more than likely think the fighter I prefer is asking for something that's fair. So we're still back where we started. What's actually fair? or what's actually right? We're still going to have something to debate about. I mean, that's what sports are. League of Legacy says Bud has been caught lying about never having a guarantee. Errol not asking where the money is coming from, and that let him know he wanted and that let them know he wanted to fight before the end of the year. Certain fans still ignore that. Yeah, so Espinoza is saying, I'll start at the back end of that. Espinoza is saying that he didn't tell them he wanted to fight by the end of the year. Blue Blood has said that quite a bit. Bud has said that. I don't know who to believe there. So it kind of is what it is. Um, Never having a guarantee. So because the only thing that's been confirmed is that neither fighter was getting a guarantee, that always leaves room for debate. Yeah. So that always leaves for debate because they don't talk about what guarantees were offered initially. They only talk about what they agreed upon, which sucks. All right, let's see. So they say, yeah. I mean, but they all say something. We're even if we saw it in black and white, I assure you, every YouTube content creator that does boxing and every boxing fan would still find something to debate. So it's not going to take debate out. I mean, it is what it is. Uh, we're going to find something to talk about no matter what. All right, bottom line, it's none of our business. Having that much access to what they're doing and what they get is cringy. Yeah. Brenda says Espinoza is just another pimp. Don't do Steven Espinoza like that. Don't do him like that. He's just a little dude that wear bad suits that like to blend in. Y'all ever see how he be sitting like in fights and he's like one of the least noticeable people there? He just be chilling ringside. Like, I mean, I kind of like that. I think that he's a good I think that he's good at what he does. I think he's a good representation of his brand. Is he always above board? Probably not. But if you go and look at the NFL, you look at the NBA, everybody ain't above board. So that's not even the expectation that I have of people in those positions because I feel like those people do what's beneficial to their pockets. Hey, chicken talk. I mean, I feel you. Um, I was laying out some plausible things. Did you hear the part where I was saying I feel like Spence and Crawford are probably going to be out of division this time next year, no matter what happens, like whether they fight or not. That was kind of where I started. That we started getting into how to negotiate. He's a lawyer. Need I say more? I mean, not all lawyers are bad. I got some of my family. They're above board 90% of the time. I mean, everybody got to do what they got to do, man. I don't hold people to unrealistic standards. Um, Everybody's going to make mistakes, and everybody's going to do what's in their best interest first. So that's kind of my perspective on that. All right, Brenda, have a great day. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget to hit that like on the way out for me. But yeah, chicken talk. As far as the fights coming up, yeah, I do want to see some good stuff. I've been digging into the lighter weight classes. I got a video out. I don't know who all here keeps up with some of the lighter weights. 118 specifically in a way and stuff like that. Um, let's see. I've been checking out in a way what's going on with Fulton. You got MJ. You've got Ray Vargas having some movement, like between 118 and 126, and basically 130. I've seen some stuff that is interesting. Let's see. We could start with. I hope Yard puts up a good fight against Beterbiev. Bevo versus Beterbiev going to be the fight of the year if Eddie and Top Rank don't get in the way. Um, yeah. I, so my co-host Q, he's not. I think he favors Bivol in that fight. Um, but to start off with Yard and Beterbiev, I think Alter's just gonna he's gonna give him too much. I think the way that he's going to overwhelm him, and because of footwork issues that Yard has, I think that's what's going to get him in trouble in the fight. And kind of like you saw with Boots, he moves forward with the back foot first. So if you're a boxer and you're trying to close ground and you bring back foot in first, you're naturally off balance. And if you're throwing a punch, you're even more off balance because you're shifting your weight in an unnatural way. To me, that's going to be something that's cause for concern. And when you got somebody that applies the power and pressure like Beterbiev, it's a um it's a wrap for you because he's gonna catch you slipping and it's over. Now, versus Bivol, I think Bivol is so technically sound. He doesn't bring you all the bells and whistles. He just comes in with a good strategy. He fights his game and he forces you. Now, the main thing you have to be concerned with is will his chin hold up because that's going to be a hell of an onslaught um, coming from Beterbiev. But I think that's where skill versus age is going to be a little bit of a test. All right, so Fulton versus Figueroa 2. So I don't know how much you've been keeping up with it, Jay, but from what I saw, and you might have seen the video on my channel, I know you've been fairly active over there, so I don't want to just keep rehashing things that you've already seen. But here's what we've been saying in the comments. We've got a February 25th date for Fulton and Figueroa tentatively set, but it's not on any platforms yet. Boxing Showtimes, haven't seen on BoxRec yet. But then you also have stuff going around that Mexayo and Figueroa are going to fight. So I don't know which of those is actually legit. We have a date for the rematch, but we don't have a date or even a suggested date for Figueroa Mexayo. I would like to see the rematch just because I think that Fulton did a good job of winning that fight. I don't think there was much question on who the winner was, especially if you watch the replay. Fulton rolled off a lot of shots. He blocked some shots, caught shots, and he was also getting his own shots off in between. Even though he was backing up, I thought he was doing a really good job of counterpunching. I thought he did a really good job of counterpunching. Fulton ain't fighting Figs. I hear you. So I mean, you got word like officially or what? Um, Let me see. Fulton versus Inouye Loading. Oh yeah, for sure. That's the one I really want to see. I don't. If I had to pick between the two, and because it's not like a full belt on the line anyway, I want Inouye. Um, because Fulton said some things that made me feel like he needs to fight him. Stop him. All right, let me close out this one point I was making. So Fulton Figueroa, I just think that it will be a UD and he would just outbox him and he would move around and not get into that dirty fight like the last time. All right, so we have, let's see, computer slowing down. Chicken Talk says De Los Santos versus Pitbull. I like it. Fulton going to stop anyway. Rayo Colbert, Aleem Neary. Okay, see, you running the whole roster. Let me slow down and pick something to talk about on this one. All right, so the first one, I think this would be a good fight in general. A good style matchup, a good competitive fight. I'm trying to think of the last time I saw De Los Santos. I can't think for sure. I'm gonna come back to that one. Rayo versus Colbert. So that's at 130, right? Or 35. Yeah, that's at 135, right? Or did they say? I did see the announcement, but I didn't look at the weight. But so I was probably higher on Colbert before I saw how a particular style of fighting could get the best of him. But like you said, Jay, coming off of L, I think they both have something. You rebuild your reputation. You rebuild your reputation either by winning the fight, or if you can put together a truly competitive fight, you still get into the plus category because you're fighting another good fighter. 130, okay. Well, I mean, wait, I'm sorry. So wait, which is it? 130 or 135? I'll circle back to it if somebody could drop that in there for me. Um, yeah, if somebody could drop that in there for me, I appreciate it. So I'm gonna move on to this one, Aleem versus Neri. Um, I don't know for sure how it plays out in the ring, but from what I've seen from Aleem, I like that. But I want to throw this question out. So, do you think that there's a specific reason Fulton didn't want to fight Aleem? It's definitely lightweight. Okay, okay, cool. Chicken talk on top of it. I gotta put you at the top of my feed where I gotta get all the notifications. So when you dropping info, I don't miss stuff. I mean, I follow the Twitter, but sometimes I'll be missing things. I gotta get my notifications working again. But no, I feel like just how tough of a fight that would be. I think that's why Fulton wouldn't take him on. Because isn't he a mandatory for one of those belts? Fulton won challenges. What up though, Greg? Chicken talk always be on top of it. Facts. Yeah, man. I think Fulton does want challenges, but the thing that's being said out in just the general public is that he's trying to avoid in a way, and that's why he wants to fight Figueroa again. But I'm like, even if he don't fight Figueroa, you still got a shot at undisputed if you could get MJ in the ring. Like that would have been a good fight too. Yeah, I think that inactivity. Fulton ain't that young. He's like 28. He up there with Tank. He ain't that young. I don't see that we'll talk about it. Yeah, I'll check the show out for sure. Or I'll try to at least listen. Like I caught the one over the weekend. Okay, so I ain't missing too much then, and then I try to keep up with whatever you put on the YouTube feed. But I know that's probably just passing information more than anything. But yeah, Fulton has been out the ring a good little while. I just think that his style of fighting, just the way it looks so fluid, I don't know that he's super affected by inactivity, but he definitely needs to stay active the next couple of years because when you start to exit your prime, you really need to have a lot of experience to offset that. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't just have a handful of fights and you're exiting your prime because it's going to affect your ability to be sharp when you have these layoffs in between. Um, and then I like that sometimes he go up there and work with boots too. But as far as like 122, I think I think we could get an undisputed fight later this year because this is how I mapped it out in my head. This is assuming that, and I said this on the video already. This is assuming that Fig and Fulton 2 does happen. Let's just say it happens. That's February. You could actually get Inouye and Fulton in the ring around, let's say, May, June, and the winner can fight the winner of MJ's next fight after that for undisputed. I mean, does that in you guys' opinion, does that sound plausible? Because that's kind of how I mapped it out in my head. Now there might be other things that I'm just not taking into account that could block it, promotional issues possibly. But other than that, I could see that that was a thing. That could be a thing. And then also, I'm not certain because Inoue would be the mandatory for the WBO. Would he also be able to grab the WBC? MJ ain't fighting nobody. He's content fighting his Mandos on undercard. Yeah, and you can't order the fight. So here's something I saw, and I think this is where some of my knowledge is going to run short. I'm going to be completely transparent. Interim titles. Somebody with more knowledge than me, please explain. And you're welcome to jump on. The link is pinned if you just want to pop on and explain it where you don't have to type it. But if you're an interim champion, I saw a video that said that if Terrence Crawford was to challenge Jerron Ennis, you could actually put the interim title up for grabs. Is that factual? Because I don't see how that works. Because as an interim belt, it's not a full title. So can you put it on the line for somebody that's not in the IBF rankings? Chicken Talk, do you have insight on that for me? All right. Jay says, how y'all feel about Oscar De La Hoya saying Tank ain't signed a contract yet? I'm gonna circle back to that one. I want to get to this chicken talk comment so we could maybe close out on that specific conversation. Talk about MJ. I expect people to do what they've always done. He got to show me different, but until then, I'm gonna believe actions over words. That's fair. That's fair. I don't see a reason to think otherwise either. Um, and there's nothing that can be done to put pressure. There's nothing to put pressure on him because you can't mandate it. Okay, so Triple G did that when he beat the one dude for the WBC interim while he was the WBA champ. Okay, so oh wow. Now was that what Suleiman was talking about over the weekend where they tried to do a mandate situation, or was that a different fight? But okay, so you can actually fight for an interim, and you could do that. All right. AM Sports Media says I would think you could lose it whether interim or not. I mean, it's reasonable to believe. I didn't have the book knowledge on it to say for sure. I don't want to misquote or mistake a rule for something that's not true. I don't want to spread information that's not accurate. So I want to get some other people's opinion to be for sure. Chicken Talk says that's also how Kovalev became WBC Mando by beating Pascal. Okay. Okay. As long as there's a precedent for it, which it sounds like there's a couple different situations where it's already happened, then it makes perfect sense to me. Um, Chicken Talk says Bud isn't fighting to become Spence Mando because he wouldn't agree to that split. Yeah, because it's like 65. It used to be 75-25 for the IBF, but then they just change it to 65-35. Yeah, Greg. It was Kovalev. I just couldn't think of it, man. I watch so much content. Sometimes all that stuff start running together. Yeah, I don't. This point right here, yes. if it's about the money, because if that was the case, he could have just took the split before and took the original guarantee because the fight's going to make money. So I'm going to go back to this right here. Um, Jay said, "How do you feel about Oscar De La Hoya?" So I think it's BS. I did a short video on it. I dropped yesterday evening, and I'll reiterate those points here. To me, I think it was just cap. I think it's marketing for the fight. I don't think. I think it's such a lucrative fight. Why would you not want to do it? And it's not like you're losing a belt or anything like that. I think you want that fight to happen. All right, let's see. Am Sports Media says, but they don't have to use the split. They can negotiate the split and only defaults they can. You're right. I'm sorry. That's purse bid. That's purse bid. But I mean, if it's mandated and you couldn't sit down and make an agreement when you had the opportunity from what May until September, how many months is that? 6 months? May, June, July, August, September. 5 months. You had 5 months and couldn't agree. So they're likely going to go to that default split. And obviously, it wasn't good enough for him. I don't know. I mean, Espinoza said they're not sending the contract until after Tank results are issued in February. Oh, okay. So De La Hoya knows this. So it's just marketing. It's There's no other reason to even say that. If you know that they're waiting to find out what the penalty on Tank is going to be, why would you do it any other way? Why would you expect to have something prior to that day? Just doesn't make sense to me. Any other questions or anything? Panel's open if anybody want to come on. Like, I mean, if anybody else want to just chit chat and jump on, I definitely, extend the time. I don't have a time frame for this. I'm just on here just talking sports with y'all. Um, I never ever get to any other sports, but that's okay. I like talking boxing with y'all, so it's cool for me. Um, what else was there that happened or potentially happened? Let me see. Let me go back through the comments, make sure I didn't miss anything. I don't want to leave anything out. Okay. So let's talk about Ryan Garcia when De La Hoya started letting out those fans. Well, yeah, I mean that's true. Just the timing of it just didn't make sense. So, and that's why the title of my video is like capping, because it just felt like you just saying something just to say it. You just sparking interest in something that really doesn't need to build just yet. We got to get a date first. We know that PBC and Showtime got to figure out their April schedule, because we're not getting to pay-per-views in that month. I will hope not, because I'm gonna have to pick, and I'm picking Spence because it's gonna have been a year. That being said, it's really hard to take Oscar seriously. So I want to open it up for anybody that wants to talk about how do you, if you're Keith Thurman and you're really interested in a competitive fight and not just a payday, what's your strategy to beat Spence? Or what do you all think is the likelihood that he sees the final bell? Because I feel like this is a fight where Keith could get stopped for a combination of things. His one major weakness is probably the best strength of Spence, and then maybe that desire, getting about them silk sheets to take a beating is hard to do. So, what do you think offsets all of that and gives Keith a chance to win the fight if he's really interested in it? All right, we got Greg in the building. G, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man? Hold
Appreciate
on, let me
you.
see.
Get settled. Oh, you froze up. I'm gonna put him backstage for now, and then I'll bring him back in once he unfreezes. But I don't know what strategy Keith takes to offset what Errol does so well. I don't have a big problem with this fight at 154 because I feel like it just doesn't get in the way of things that we want to see. All right, Greg's back. I gotta see which one of these we're putting in. G, you good?
Yeah, can you see me?
Well, I can hear you. I can't see you. Okay, there we go. All right, got you.
Is there an echo?
It is. I think your bat phone probably still on.
Yeah. Let me hold on real quick.
Turn the YouTube off. Yeah, I'm gonna mute you so it don't echo. All right. So, but as I was saying, because it seems like Keith has agreed to take the fight without belts being on the line, I have to wonder how much desire he has to even win the fight because it sounds like it's just a money thing. Like it's the great Keith cash out. He's gonna get his payday and then he's gonna be able to go on about his business. And I mean, it looked like he expressed some interest in maybe doing some commentary if that's something he wants to do. I think he's frozen again. All right, let me see. All right, you back, Greg? Okay, that's not working either. All right, but anyway, I feel like if he had a true desire to become a champion again at 147 and maybe trying to extend his reign or continue his legacy, I don't think he would have taken. I don't think he would have taken that fight at that weight and agreed to those terms. I just don't see that as a thing. Um, Tune up. Jay says it's a tune up. Yeah, possibly, but we don't know what condition Spence is in. I think that's the thing. My personal opinion is that if he says it's a leg issue, obviously he wasn't in a cast or a boot. I think he had some type of ligament strain or something like that, and it's keeping him from training properly. So he's managing his ability to drop the weight by not overdoing it with maybe the running and stuff like that. One way we'll know for sure how much road work or whatever Spencer's able to do is going to depend on his tank if this fight goes the distance. If he's not as active late like he typically is, that's how you're going to know that he had a pretty serious leg injury that prevented him from truly running and getting in his usual road work and cardio work. That's just my opinion. All right, Greg's trying to tap in, but let me, write something in the chat. But yeah, that's what I think. Is it a tune up level fight for Spence at this point with what Keith offers? Potentially, but it's gonna depend a lot on how hungry Keith is. That's just my perspective on that. It's gonna really depend a lot on that. Let me see. I know y'all probably tired of this particular song. Let's do something else in the back. Don't judge my taste in music. All right, let me see. All right, we're trying to get Greg in. Mike's gonna cut in. Okay. I hang tight 1 second. I'm trying to bring Greg. Jay says, I'm a big Arrow fan. I think if he was going to fight at 154, it should have been against a 154 pounder like Harrison. That stylistically would have been great before Bud. I agree. All right, bro. I got you back in the stream.
Oh, you can hear me now?
Yes, sir. I got you loud and clear. We got you.
Gotcha. So what were you talking about now?
So we were talking about the prospects of what it looks like. What can Keith Thurman do if he's actually interested in winning the fight? What can he do to beat Errol Spence? Because obviously his weakness is Errol's strength.
Yeah, man, that's a really tough question. Like in my mind, the strength that Keith Thurman has is his ability to move around, right? And I think he's going to have to constantly force Errol to chase him around and try to get Errol off of his game by doing that, by trying to throw quick counters. But I mean, at Keith's age right now, I think the other video we did, I think I said he was like 34, 35, but I think somebody corrected me and said he's like around 33. But even at that age, man, that level of movement, I would find it challenging for him to sustain that. It's that movement in his style that I think will give Spence challenges somewhere in the early rounds. But I think ultimately Spence is just going to end up walking him down, bro. So I don't really see a good way for him to actually win that fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I believe that. Damn, I need 10-minute videos. 6-minute videos too short when I'm driving. He said he need that commute covered, bruh.
He need that what?
Hold on, chicken talk. He says, "Am I need those. I need 10-minute videos. Those 6-minute videos too short when I'm driving."
Bro, so it's interesting, man. We've been trying to figure out what's the right length of video because um we do videos and sometimes it's like you get, depending on, maybe it's the topic, but sometimes it's like 4 minutes retention or 5 minutes, just depends. We've gotten that feedback as well. We used to have our videos at 10 minutes, but the retention wasn't as high. And so we started dropping them to like 5 and 6 minutes, 7 minutes, because people seem to be a little bit more engaged with that. So,
Yeah, and that's me. I'm 6 to 7 minutes. Well,
yeah, yeah. Plus, I have to drop, like Jason and I, we either drop our videos very early in the morning, late at night, or if we have some time in between, like meetings and stuff like that during the day, we can connect and record. So it's easier to get 5 to 7 minute videos off instead of making them all, 10.
yeah. No, I did that. So here's a comment from Jay. I'm gonna share. I'm a big Errol fan. I think if he was going to fight at 154, it should have been against a 154 pounder like Harrison. That stylistically would have been great before. But while I 100% agree, this is supposedly satisfying a mandatory. So the terms of that, so the opponent was set. He's got to fight Keith because the WBC has decided he's going to fight Keith. Um, that being said, I do like the idea of when he actually gets to 154, if Tony is still around, go ahead and fight him. He's gonna beat him up a little bit, but I think it's a good fight because it's a smaller super welterweight.
I like what Spence is doing because I think, again, to the point that you're making, he's satisfying that mandatory. I'm still shocked that the WBC is going to allow that to be a fight that satisfies his mandatory, but he's satisfying his mandatory. I believe they're going to do it at catchweight from what I've read or heard somewhere.
52.
It gives him the opportunity to maintain those belts and get his opportunity at Terrence Crawford in 60 days after they complete that fight. So I think it's a brilliant move by Spence. And if that fight doesn't materialize, then Tony Harrison does make a whole lot of sense.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, if it's so many ifs, like Brenda said on my video, so many ifs, but the biggest if is that a a fight with Crawford needs to be signed at or around the same time he's finalizing things with Keith. By the time he steps in the ring with Keith Thurman, that fight needs to be signed or just give it up. If you can't have it set by the time you start doing that promo run, because then you can actually build anticipation while you could get a 2-for-1. You're promoting the Keith Thurman fight while you're also saying, and also keep in mind, right after this, I have plans once I take care of business to go over here and fight this guy and get this undisputed. So you could start that ball rolling, and now you could cue Crawford to either get him a quick fight in if he can, go do something at BLK like he did the last time, throw something together, and then you both could build some anticipation during that same media run. Bud definitely need to be at the fight. When no matter what he plans to do, he needs to be at that fight. Don't act like you don't go. I do want to share a comment that Jay said. Jay said, "Y'all are killing the content lately. Happy to see y'all grow for sure, man. Like I said, I give y'all flowers every time I'm on your channel. Y'all are setting the bar, and I'm just coming right behind that, trying to do the same." Jay says, "Yeah, Bud should be ringside. 100% agree. He got to be in the building, man. Make people believe you want it."
I like that. I like that thought, T. I really do. And Jay, man, appreciate that, man. It's people like you actually that help us set the bar high, and we don't mind feedback. So people like you, Brenda, and everybody else that's T, everybody else that's on the channel. That's why the channel is good. That's why it's growing. I think that's a really good point that you're making there. There's no reason why this fight shouldn't be signed before Errol Spence actually steps into the ring with Keith Thurman. I think from a publicity standpoint, promotional standpoint, it makes a whole lot of sense, specifically for Errol Spence, because that's going to make a whole lot of money for him, additional funds, because they're going to be additional eyeballs on that fight to see what the outcome is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
And, but hey, maybe Terrence Crawford doesn't want to do that since he's going to be lining the pocket of Errol Spence by doing that. But I don't know. We'll see. To me, the terms have already really been set. I mean,
Yeah.
65-35 split, that's really what it should be. The fight that he had in December actually hurt his case. So they should really just start off where they left. As long as there's transparency in the contract, which I believe there was, that should be the contract. So it shouldn't be that hard.
And I think because he took that fight, though, I think he should be willing. Um, I think he should be willing to take whatever that original guarantee was. If it was 10 million, then take that 10 million that you were originally offered, along with that 35% back end, and let's live with it. See, Greg flexing on us, showing off this beautiful home.
Oh no, I'm just trying to get my camera right because I'm holding it head up, and I don't like holding it like this.
He flexing on us. You gotta get you a tripod, man, so when you pop in with me, you can just sit it on the tabletop.
Yeah, I'm sitting. Yeah, I'm not in the office right now, so I'm just chilling here. So it's easier for me to just kind of jump in right here.
Yeah, but no, it's all good. Like I said, I appreciate you tapping in. But just spinning off of the point you're making, I do believe that from a financial standpoint, Bud is more empowered as far as what he would need because now, if you build it right and you let them guide you on what you need to be doing for marketing, you let them tell you, hey, this is what we've done in the past to build our super fights. This is what we need you to do. We don't necessarily need you to talk. We just need you to put people in positions to either speak on your behalf or go to these particular outlets, and we've already let them know to prop you up. So they're going to talk good about you. They're going to ask you the questions that put you in line. And here's some talking points just in case. You're going to make more money if you let us guide you. Don't go and do what you did for that BLK fight. Go in
Oh
and
no.
go in and do what our strategy is that's proven to work, and we're going to make sure you make plenty of money. And you'll still make more than 25 million because you'll get your 10 guaranteed plus whatever 15 plus off the back end. And because you're not paying your own promoter, you actually have an opportunity to come up really big. So, but Errol's going to make more money than you. As long as you can accept that, you're doing okay. That's my perspective on that. But most people, like Chicken Talk said, he said the fight ain't happening, so we should give it up. Yeah. So I just I'm not giving up hope until one of them moves to 154 or loses a fight. That's the only way I can see it. Jay, what's your hope meter on a scale of 1 to 100? Where's your hope meter for this fight happening? Meanwhile, Greg on the flex.
No, man, my wife and kids just came home, bro. So I need to change positions. Sorry about
No, I'm a joke with you. Jason ain't here to give you smoke, so I'm gonna do it. 70.
that.
I'm at 80%. I'm at 80% hope meter right now. Hey, Lefty, if you still here, what's your hope meter on the fight? Like a 5? He gonna say 0. Greg, what's your hope meter for the fight at this point? 1 to 100.
For Terrence Crawford versus Errol Spence,
Yeah,
um,
70,
15%.
15.
Yeah,
Dang.
I don't think I'm concerned about that fight actually happening, man, to be honest with you. Just because the I don't know if Terrence really wants that fight, bro. Because at the end of the day, if he really wanted that fight, there were so many opportunities for Terrence to sign that contract, and he still hasn't done it.
Yeah,
So, I mean, he could have signed that contract and still had the opportunity to fight David Avanesian. Wouldn't have been no issue. I don't think Errol Spence or Al Hammond would have had an issue with that. And the fact that he still didn't sign the contract, I don't know if he thought somehow he was going to be able to step away and get some kind of leverage. But now I think he's even in a worse position because Spence is indicating that he doesn't mind going ahead and moving up to 154 pounds. So
yeah.
yeah, I 15%.
Okay. So, Errol Spence is what, 32 years old right now. So let's just say the fight doesn't happen and he goes to 54. Um, he'll already have fought Keith Thurman. Who would you put in front of him next? Now, Brian Castano beat him before in the amateurs. Would you put him in there with somebody like that? Or, they've thrown around Fundora. Is there somebody at 154? We said Harrison. Like, map out his first 3 fights at 54 after Keith, if you give him 3 fights. Okay. Jay says Fundora. Um, I like the idea.
Fundora's not going to fight him. Fundora has already said that he doesn't want to fight.
Just straight up.
Yeah, he had an interview, man, like a couple of months ago. He started talking about, I would like to have this fight or that fight before I would fight somebody like Errol Spence. So Fundora doesn't want that fight. And I don't think it's a good matchup for him either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what Spence does well would really bring the hurt to Fundora too. Again, from a style matchup, Fundora already gives up his height. Something I don't like. He doesn't fight like a tall, tall fighter with reach. He fights like a short arm inside guy. He likes to get mix it up, and to me, that puts him at a significant disadvantage because you could get more on them shots if you really extend more. He's not getting the most on it. He's still dangerous, but somebody that's gonna get in there on the body, that will be something tough for him. Let's see. Jay says I saw Fundora call him out multiple times. Wow.
Let me find the video because Jason knows exactly what I'm talking about because Jason was actually the one that sent me the video. It was like a couple of months ago. I'll see if I can find it or if Jason has it, but he definitely said in there he wasn't ready to take that fight next.
Okay, maybe we could do a collab video on potential opponents for Errol Spence at 154, and then we maybe hash this out on video too. Let's see. Chicken Talk says, I'll tell PPC to revisit Canelo at 164 in September. Canelo don't really want to rematch for Vol, and it's the biggest money fight for both. You know? Yeah.
Errol will probably do it too. I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be willing to do that.
It's for legacy. He couldn't get Pacquiao. If that's even on the table, that means he didn't get Crawford. He'll have fought Keith. All of his contemporaries besides Crawford, he'd have gotten in the ring besides Canelo. So yeah, it makes sense. Does anybody feel like? Let's see. Jay says he still got Spence stopping Fundora. Does anybody think that? Let's say 3 years from now, they're going to be around 35. I think they're a couple months apart, so they're both about 35 years old, potentially looking at retirement. Legacies are set. Spence and Charlo. Spence obviously would do it. Do you think by that point, because there are no other big fights for Charlo, do you think at that point it's like, bro, we got to get this money because we're on our way out?
Wow. Feels like Spence would be willing, depending upon what the money is like. But I don't know if it's going to be enough money to actually move him. I don't know. It depends. Who would DJ be in the corner of?
Spence. He's been there longer. And he's, well, shit. I don't know who would be the A side, but I feel like
Spence would be the A side.
Yeah, and I feel like on paper, at least he's going to make the most money. So you got the dude who could pay you the most. You know, you make them fight for it. I mean, you make them step up and give you that bag, which I just feel like DJ will pick him. He doesn't want the fight at all. He's expressed that specifically. He's not interested in the fight. So, but if he had to pick a side, I'm sure because he kind of grew with Spence. He's the one who put DJ on the map as a trainer, in my opinion. That's who I would go with.
Yeah, I don't think that fight's gonna happen. I don't. I'd be surprised if that fight happens. I'd be truly surprised.
Yeah, I mean it's enough reasons for it not to fight, for it not to happen. I want to see them fight. I really need to know Mel ain't fighting Spence. That's what Jay say. I want to see them scrap. Well, if they could just get in there and do some heavy sparring, I want to see it. I want to see them seriously, like nothing on the line. Just get in there and scrap. I feel like Mel has the tools to give Errol hell, and I got
Errol. I just sometimes Mel, I don't know, he just feels like he's too emotional in the ring, and then there's certain times he's doing stuff where, like when he was fighting Tony Harrison, Jason and I were text messaging back and forth, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, all this dude has to do is this. Like, why does he keep doing this? Like, all he needs to do is just kind of pump that jab a little bit, wait for Tony to open up and throw with him, and he will knock him out. He'll catch him and get him up out of there. Sure enough, as soon as he did it, he knocked him out. That fight, the second fight, shouldn't have gone that long. So, I don't know, man. Sometimes it just doesn't feel like he's using his boxing IQ.
Because Mel don't like to take the easy route. That's why.
You want to make it harder, huh?
He don't like
Nah.
the easy route. That's all it is. Now, I mean, I agree. He definitely makes most of his fights more complex than need be, and that's problematic for a bunch of ways. Like the first Castano fight, he had that fight won early if he had stuck to his first and second round strategy. In the middle of the fight, he basically gave up control to Castano and had to come back in the last 3 rounds to get that draw. Because he definitely, when I watched the replay, I was like, dang, he really kind of gave away rounds that he could have been in control of, backing up against the ropes. He wasn't effective with his jab because he was trying to do other stuff. And when they would go to the trainer tracks and listen to Derrick James, he was telling them what to do and he just wasn't doing it. He even said at one point, like, you're not doing what I told you. And that's why he's able to get this, and this. Like, Derrick James is very analytical about things. And he broke it down to the decimal, and Mel just didn't listen. And that second
Right.
fight, he actually took heed. So when you watched it, and Mel started getting away from the game plan, DJ told him what to do. He was like, all right. And then he went out and he executed in that moment. He didn't give up as much ground. I mean, he still put his back on the ropes a little bit too much, but he was getting off the right shots. And that his punch selection was better in the second fight. And I think he was way more relaxed because he knew Castano probably couldn't knock him out. So he could kind of go for it. That was kind of my perspective on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
For sure. But man, I'm pretty much out of topics. I ain't gonna hold you. I know you got different things going on. It look like the chat is slowed down, so I'm gonna go ahead and call it right there. I appreciate you joining me, man, and
Oh, no
support.
problem.
Hey, thanks to everybody in the chat. Hey, don't forget we're gonna be dropping more videos later today. We put out stuff pretty much every day, or at least 5 days a week. So please don't forget to like, share, and comment on the post and all that stuff. And until the next time, this has been the Mike Check Podcast. T Word, my boy Greg as a guest. We'll see y'all later. Peace.
Peace.